This is so unfair. Nobody listens to what I have to say, but it's just sitting inside and I can't even find the words to explain or express. This world is cruel. I will never forgive you for what you did to me. You ruined the best years of my life. Does that sound familiar? Resentment, grief, so much of it in many of us, and many are not ready to let it go. We cherish it because it brings some benefits despite the destructive nature of that feeling. Could it be that resentment and grief is affecting one's health? Did you know that grief and resentment is the cause of cancer? Many of us often resent others, thinking that this way we will show them how badly we have been treated. But resentment and negative thoughts will not only not change the behavior of other people towards us, but will also harm our own health. Keeping resentment in our hearts, we unconsciously call upon ourselves a number of unpleasant illnesses, which in turn, by their presence and manifestations, show us what exactly we need to let go from our lives. Let's consider how exactly resentment and negative thoughts affect our life. Each of us has experienced this unpleasant feeling of resentment. Some may feel in the stomach, some in the chest, or even in the throat. Usually, we would not pay attention to those effects that it has on our psyche and body. However, the pain of being treated unfairly does not just simply go away, and it continues to live inside of us. The more we ignore and deny it, the more it builds up and it has destructive effect in our lives. The resentment can be of different kind. Sometimes it is enough to just clarify the situation and the resentment is gone. But there are those that we will carry inside of us, with us, all our lives. And we don't know what necessarily to do with these negative feelings it brings to us, or how to free ourselves from them. Resentment against mom, dad, ex-husband, partner, children, relatives, friends, or even resentment against self. This feeling can accumulate throughout life like a snowball. All this will prevent us from living a happy, comfortable life, having a chest full of fresh air. Relations with parents are the foundation of everything, as many know from psychology courses, and it's not a secret. It's the foundation of relationships. It's an income foundation of how one financially supports his own life. The foundation of the internal state and condition. Foundation of realization and manifestation of things in one's life. Often the root of the reasons for learning resentment and using it in one's life comes from childhood. And I will further explain what do I mean by learning and using it. What I wanted to mention is that there are three distinct vectors of resentment. One, it could be at the circumstances. For example, what else could I have done in this situation? Sometimes we can be completely powerless, as if something is working against us. You want something, you make an effort, but nothing works. This is how resentment against circumstances arises. When one believes in some form of higher power that controls the circumstances, then one may direct the resentment at that higher power, as the resentment is always looking for someone to blame. Oh, he's not treating me right, or he's not looking in my direction. I've been abandoned, forgotten. Then there's a vector of resentment towards people. Here's everything is simple. If it were not for these people, then everything would have been wonderful. And people are always the cause of the misfortune in one's life. And then there is a resentment at self. How could I allow this to happen? Why didn't I calculate everything thoroughly? These thoughts probably come to everyone, and some of them perhaps several times a day. I tried and I tried, but it didn't work out. I'm incapable. I'm a loser. I'm depressed. This is how one can spend half of one's life in resentment itself. Self resentment is the most destructive one. People get hung up on their internal conflicts and self contemplation and self pity. It is very difficult to get people out of that state. Often they even artificially maintain this state themselves. Men can get stuck on alcoholic dependencies. Some overeat. Some get into pornography. Some isolate themselves from everyone and drown in the TV, video games. Women can be locked in things. They start buying clothes. They spend on extra cosmetics, trinkets in incredible quantities. Thoughtlessly spend money or gossip or flirt with everyone they meet. Hidden deep resentment or bitterness causes the growth of various serious illnesses, including tumors. Um, Resentment carries a hidden death wish for the one who causes pain. And this aggression directed at the other then turns against the author himself and turns into a program of self destruction. Uh, Slow but self destruction. The cause of cancer is resentment. In fact, cancer is an aged, hidden resentment, anger, hatred, and a desire for revenge, which literally devours the body from the inside. It is a deep soul wound that does not heal. It's a strong and far reaching internal conflict with oneself and with the world around. The toxic variant of pride or hubris and the arrogance that it generates, the feelings of guilt and shame, condemnation and disdain, deep hostility to people, all will lead to this. If a person is like a cancer cell in his worldview, he replicates this cancerous state in his body. Resentment drains all the emotional and spiritual strength from the offended. Just as the cancerous tumor takes all the strength from the body, thereby destroying it. Resentment closes the path to recovery. Resentment affects all the areas of life. This is one of the most serious obstacles to life, since it does not allow us to move forward, and our heart becomes hard, heavy. In any case, all this leads to an internal conflict that is to a conflict with oneself. The mechanism is simple. Everyone strives for inner harmony, wants peace and love. After all, we're not created for pain, neglect, and alienation. But it's the resentment that forms negative atmosphere around us and in us. We want good for ourselves, but on the other hand, we ourselves do not let go of evil. When one is in deficit of some emotional state, and here I'm going to talk back again about what I mentioned I was going to talk. How is that possible that one uses the resentment in his own advantage, in his own benefit? When one is in deficit of some emotional state, one will find ways to fill it by any means, even if it takes self-infliction, often without realizing it. Physical condition of one is often considered an easy trade-in item for those who are lacking, for instance, love, affection, attention. One would subconsciously and over time get self into a state by the means of which he or she will be trying to fulfill the lack of those feelings by the means of others or self through pity, guilt, obligation, attachments. A resentment forms an attachment to a situation or others by the means of which some benefit to self, that benefit is received and will remain unidentified by the host often, living as a destructive behavioral pattern until situational circumstances as a result of one's choices would make it obvious and pointed out that the path the one is taking is incorrect, is misleading, is wrong. This is when one's beautiful destruction, as we call it, of old self occurs, and one steps up, letting the old self go. One then becomes one step forward on the path to the true freedom. Freedom of dependencies, freedom of the destructive behavior. Forgiveness of resentment and cleansing of one's soul from old grievances releases the heaviness on the soul, releases more energy, makes us happier, creates the new happy scenarios in life, opens the flow of money and the flow of fulfillment of desires, makes our children happier, raises our vibrations overall. All the grievances that sit inside us are like heavy load, a bag of stones that a person carries with him through entire life. When a person forgives self and his offenders, frees himself from guilt and blame and shame, he rises in vibrations and begins to live a happier life. So I wanted to do a download. Channeling on forgiveness by one's birthright and free will for those who want and accept it. I know what true forgiveness is. I know where, when, and how to forgive. I know how to be motivated to forgive on a daily basis. And if you haven't closed your eyes yet, please do so. Think of something nice, put yourself in a deep, relaxed state where you're not thinking of anything, and just accept. I know how to live through resentments, regrets, and fears. I know how to live my daily happy life with forgiveness. I get rid of my resentments from anger and pain, from my fears. I break the chain of eternal repetition and get rid of suffering forever. The universe says yes to my joy, my strength, and my happiness. I allow myself to accept true forgiveness. I forgive the fear of I am not loved and the anger that everything in my life is not the way I want. I forgive. Then you can mention the names of those that you forgive. Think of them. And all people who have hurt me by thought, word, action, or inaction. I forgive for offense, fear, anger, suffering, and pain. I forgive and let them go with love and gratitude. I forgive myself for letting resentment into myself, fear of I am not loved, anger that everything in my life is not the way I want, for suffering and pain. I forgive and let go of myself with love and gratitude. I love myself and accept myself as I am. I am the Creator's favorite child. I am the light. I am love. I ask my body to forgive me for the pain I have caused it by thought, word, action, or inaction, to forgive me for the suffering and pain I have brought to it. I apologize and thank my body. I love my body. I apologize to, then give the names, think of the people that you want to apologize, to whom I imposed my will, humiliating them with my presence, deeds, and thoughts. I apologize for my inaction, irritation, suffering, hatred, anger, apprehension, envy, grief, fear, desire for physical and moral pain. I apologize and let them go with love and gratitude. I let myself go. I ask my Heavenly Father and my Heavenly Mother to direct all my energy of awareness to my further development, the rebirth of my soul, the transformation of negative character traits. I let go of all the grievances of the past and present, and they let me go. I love myself and I forgive myself. Take some time to stay in this condition for as long as you like. This feed is over, and I will see you again.